My ex-wife cheated 15 years ago, and now she's sick and needs money. I refused to help and my kids turned against me, so I cut them out of my life. I don't know why I'm writing this, maybe to vent or make sense of what's happened. I don't expect much sympathy, especially since family situations like mine tend to polarize opinions, but sharing this might help me process my anger and frustration. I'm a 52-year-old man. I divorced my ex-wife 15 years ago after discovering she'd been cheating with a friend for 2 years. We have 3 kids together: Sarah, 26, Jake, 23, and Emily, 21, names changed for privacy. Finding out about her infidelity was devastating. I'd always prided myself on being a good husband and father, not perfect but dedicated. We were financially tight, but I worked 2 jobs to support our family while she stayed home raising our kids. I thought it was a fair arrangement, but sadly she didn't agree. She complained I didn't spend enough time with them and didn't earn enough. I carried that guilt for years, feeling inadequate in both roles, until I realized I was in my late 20s and early 30s, supporting a family of 5. No easy feat coming from a modest background with no family wealth. Everything we had was from my effort. I was doing well. Our marriage grew cold, and one day I caught her cheating. I ended it. Her infidelity didn't just hurt me, it betrayed the life we'd built. It wasn't a one-time mistake but a 2-year secret life with her friend. The emotional, financial, and psychological toll of that discovery is hard to describe, like your world crumbling. When I confronted her, she admitted it but was defensive, as if I'd driven her to it. I didn't recognize the woman I'd married. There was no reconciliation, no therapy, nothing. I filed for divorce almost immediately, and surprisingly she didn't fight it. I think she was too caught up in her fantasy with her lover to care. That dream didn't last. 6 months later he left her, leaving her alone and broken. She tried coming back, but I was emotionally done. She destroyed my trust, and there was no going back. That I focused on co-parenting and rebuilding my life. I stayed involved with our kids, not wanting the divorce to ruin their relationship with either parent. We had shared custody. I paid child support until they were independent, contributed to their college tuition, took them on vacations, and supported them however I could. They stayed with me on weekends and holidays, and we grew close. Despite my bitterness toward their mother, I hoped they wouldn't bear the divorce's weight. 5 years later, I met my current wife, kind, supportive, and amazing mother. We have 2 young kids in elementary school. My marriage is stable and happy, though balancing my new family with responsibilities to my older kids was sometimes tough. I thought I managed it well. My ex stayed single, dating casually but nothing serious, per the kids. A year ago, she fainted at work and was hospitalized. I didn't pay much attention. We only communicated about the kids, and that tapered off as they reached their late teens and early 20s. She was diagnosed with a heart issue, not too severe, discharged in a week with meds. Then earlier this year everything changed. Sarah called, saying my ex had a stroke and was paralyzed from the waist down, with uncertain recovery. I felt for my kids. She's their mother. I visited with my wife. She looked miserable. I'd cursed her when I found out about her cheating, but I never wanted this. I prayed for her recovery for the kids' sake. Sarah said they needed help, financially. My ex's medical bills were piling up, beyond her insurance or savings. I wrote a substantial check to cover most of her immediate bills. She recovered quickly, was discharged, and started physical therapy to regain strength, but she was far from normal life. She needed help with daily tasks, bathroom, showering. For 3 or 4 months, the kids took turns caring for her, but they're overwhelmed. They have their own lives. Sarah, married last year, can't focus on her marriage. Jake, starting his career, struggles to keep his job. Emily, recently graduated, can't find full-time work due to this burden, taking part-time gigs to get by. My ex can't afford a full-time nurse, and the kids can't cover one either. I recognize their situation is genuine and empathize, but what am I supposed to do? I've lent large sums 3 times since her paralysis. I have my own family, 2 young kids who'll depend on me for another decade, a wife, our own financial responsibilities. I told them I'd contribute when I could but couldn't commit to a specific amount. My kids aren't happy. They want me to fully support their mother. I refused and they've turned cold, ignoring my calls and texts, responding sarcastically to my social media posts with my wife and kids. I've tried empathizing. They're struggling to care for their mom while juggling their lives, but they show no empathy for my situation and act entitled to my money. I tolerated their bitter comments until yesterday when I snapped at Jake. He called, complaining and blaming me for not taking enough responsibility. I told him I'd met my obligations, raised them, supported them financially, paid for their education, fulfilled every legal and moral duty as a father. But their mother? No. We've been divorced 15 years. I'm not responsible for her. She made her choices and must face the consequences. That's how I see it. He hung up without a word. That I'm overwhelmed. I understand their dilemma, but I can't fully cover my ex's expenses. Am I cruel for prioritizing my current family over her? Edit, I need to clarify, my kids know their mother cheated. They haven't taken sides and I never tried to make them, as it was between her and me. We've discussed it when they asked, but I never used it to make them hate her. Update 1. I thought my stance ended the discussion, but no. Nobody feels more entitled than your own kids, thinking they'll get their way because you brought them into the world. First, a common question. What does my ex-wife think? I don't know. I have no contact with her. I visited her twice in the hospital with my wife when she wasn't able to talk. All my info comes through the kids and I don't ask what she wants from me. It's pointless. Now the update. After my argument with Jake, he rallied his sisters and they came to my house. I wasn't bitter about our talk, but they had new demands. They vented about struggling financially and caring for their sick mother. I saw where this was going but was wrong. Their demands exceeded my imagination. I let them talk without interrupting. When they finished, I politely said I had many responsibilities and couldn't commit to more financial help. Emily said, "Dad, we've paused our lives to care for Mom. This is too much. We hoped you'd be her primary caregiver." I froze and asked what that meant. Sarah chimed in, "Dad, you're financially stable now, working one job. You could share our burden on weekends and nights to give us time to prioritize our lives." I lost it but kept my voice steady. I was stunned. How could they suggest I leave my wife and kids to care for their mother in my free time? I explained that, while I empathized, she wasn't my responsibility. We'd been divorced over 15 years and I'd moved on. They could help her if they wanted, but I wouldn't go beyond what I'd already done. Sarah cried, upset I wouldn't do more. Expecting me to fund their mother wasn't enough. They wanted me to be her caregiver. Absurd. They don't see I have a full-time job, a wife, and 2 young kids. I tried reasoning, but they argued they lacked time and resources, so I should take over. They acted like I was still responsible because I was once married to her. I felt they were dumping her on me. I sat in tense silence, hoping they'd see how ridiculous they sounded. Jake broke the silence. "Come on, man, you can't dodge your responsibilities. She's your wife." I corrected him, ex-wife who destroyed our marriage. I wanted to say more but stopped to avoid sounding vengeful. They didn't take it well, uniting against me, accusing me of abandoning their mother, being selfish for choosing my new family. The argument went nowhere. I was tired of explaining like talking to a wall. Things escalated when my wife learned what was happening. She's been supportive, okay with me lending thousands to my ex for her dire situation. She usually stays out of disputes with my kids, but when she realized they wanted me to care for my ex, she stepped in. She asked, "What's going on? Why no resolution after hours?" She'd heard everything from the next room, her way of asking permission to intervene. I looked at her, explained briefly, and she smiled, empathized with them, then said firmly, "We understand, but your dad's done his part for you and your mother. He has obligations to us and our kids. You're adults. We expect you to understand his situation." They were furious, telling her to stay out of it. Before I could respond, she shot back, "I have every right to speak. Every cent he gives your mother comes from our home. We could have paid for our kids' swim lessons or summer camp, but I allowed it out of humanity. Now I see you're exploiting him emotionally and financially, and I need to support him." They accused her of manipulating me against them. Emily said she was why I wouldn't help. I was shocked at their cruelty toward a woman who's been nothing but supportive and a great stepmother. That was it. I told them I wouldn't tolerate disrespect toward my wife. I drew a line. If they couldn't be civil and stop guilting me about their mother, I'd cut contact. They didn't believe me at first, but when they kept attacking us, I followed through. I asked them to leave immediately. I have no room for people who disrespect my wife. It shocked them. I'd always shown them love. But I cut them off, all three. It was one of the hardest things I've done. I love them and always will, but I couldn't let them attack my wife and guilt me. They can't force me into a situation I don't want. It hurt, but I had no choice. Days later, the silence is painful. I keep questioning if I made the right call, if there was a better way. But replaying it, I conclude I did what I had to for my current family and mental health. I don't know if they'll come around. I hope they see my perspective someday, but I'm not holding my breath. For now, I'm focusing on my wife and young kids. They need me and I need them. Update 2. My kids reached out, not to fix things but to keep exploiting me. After our last argument, I had no contact with them for 3 months. Then Sarah texted for my birthday. I replied with an emoji. She's messaged occasionally to check in. I ignored most at first, but she apologized for being rude to my wife. I didn't address it but started replying briefly. She doesn't mention her mother and I don't ask. My wife knows and is fine with it. Sarah's the most emotional and kind of the three. She didn't say anything cruel to my wife, though Jake and Emily did, and Sarah supported them, so I distanced myself from her too. A week ago she asked to meet, not alone but with Jake and Emily. I said they had to apologize to my wife first. She agreed. My wife suggested a public place to avoid drama at home. We met at a restaurant. They apologized to my wife and things seemed normal. They updated us on their lives, avoiding their mother. Then I noticed Emily signaling Sarah with her eyes. Sarah ignored it, but Jake nudged her, obvious enough that my wife and I noticed. My wife asked, "What's going on?" The mood turned awkward. Sarah hesitated, but Emily, always direct, spoke up. "Dad, we hoped for financial help. We know asking you to be Mom's caregiver was too much, our mistake. But financially you can help. We can't keep pausing our lives. We need a full-time nurse and we can't afford it. We want you to cover it." She described their struggles, but I connected the dots. Since I cut contact, I haven't paid a cent for their mother. They realized demanding my time also cut off funds, so their apology was a ploy to manipulate me for money. I said, "I'm sorry, but I can't lend more. I'm not a millionaire. I have a regular job and many responsibilities, including your student loans." Jake snapped, "If you won't give time to care for Mom, at least pay for the nurse." I wanted to leave but didn't want to dodge the issue. I restated my stance, sparking an argument with Jake. Sarah tried mediating, saying, "Dad, you promised financial help. You used to lend money. What's changed?" I replied calmly, "Sweetie, I never promised. I said I couldn't commit but would help when possible. Now it's not viable. You can't feel entitled to my money, right?" They went silent, bitter. I reiterated that my obligations to their mother ended, and I must care for my new family. No one spoke. I paid the bill and we left. They didn't say goodbye, just sat staring at their phones. My wife and I were silent driving home, both knowing I did the right thing. It hurts seeing my kids like this. I get they don't want their mom to suffer, but I can't help more. Update 3. I've been reflecting, partly due to comments pointing out I've spoiled my kids, contributing to their behavior. It's hard to admit, but they're right. A clear example is paying Jake and Emily's student loans, their responsibility, not mine. I've taken on burdens I shouldn't have, feeding their entitlement. So, I've decided to stop paying their loans. It won't go over well, but it's time they stand on their own. I'm done with their demands, especially when they take my boundaries as personal offenses. If they cut me out for not giving money, it'll prove they see me as a wallet, not a father. What's the worst that can happen? They already barely speak to me except Sarah's occasional texts. I'll call Jake and Emily soon to tell them they're responsible for their loans. I expect pushback, but I'm ready. They can't expect me to solve all their problems, especially when they've treated me unfairly. On another note, my kids were upset about their mother's infidelity when it came out, especially Sarah, who was hit hardest. They initially sided with me, but over time they forgave her and see her as their mother, which I understand. I never used her cheating to turn them against her, it was their choice to forgive. Update 4. I spoke with Emily and Jake about stopping their loan payments. It wasn't easy. I made it clear I wouldn't cover their debts anymore and that they're welcome to have a genuine relationship with me, but if they're not interested, that's fine. If they cut me off over this, it shows they value me for money, not our bond. Emily took it slightly better than Jake, though not by much. She begged me to keep helping, saying she can't handle the debt. I sympathized but stood firm. Jake yelled, furious, and hung up. His reaction didn't surprise me, but it's still painful to see them respond this way to boundaries. I don't expect contact soon, but if this is our path, I've made peace with it. My life's changed. I can't be the father who fixes everything with money. Update 5. After nearly a year without updates, I'm posting to mark a sort of anniversary. I haven't spoken to Emily or Jake since our last talk. Emily knows I won't help with her loan, so she hasn't tried convincing me. She gets I won't budge. Jake knows too, but has been bad-mouthing me behind my back, holding the most resentment. With Sarah, things are different but still distant. We've talked occasionally, cordially, without deep personal topics. She's the only one who shares bits about her siblings, though sparingly. Through Sarah, I learned they've put their mother in a care facility. The cheapest, most practical option since they don't want full responsibility or have the money for in-home care. It's a sad but practical solution for her. This isn't a joyful update, no reconciliation or apologies. Things are what they are. I've accepted this as the course our lives have taken.